People don't understand how strong the bureaucracy of America is. When the people with the dark suits arrive and explain to him how things are really done, his ideas will not come to fruition.
The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police are like, huh?
He talks about bringing the boys to Pleasure Island.
They did this on purpose because they are Satanists. Because they hate God, they hate Jesus, they want to corrupt your children.
They would put on robes and they would worship an owl god, and they would burn an F.
Well, if there's a thing, it's rotating.
Drill music is a demonic force, and all the kids are professing and confessing to be on demon time. In history, have we ever heard black people say, I'm a demon, and don't believe in God?
To someone born before or living before 1945, I think it would have been much more obvious that this is the thing that every society has written about.
In fact, the demons are showing all the signs of being frantic, that their time is coming to an end.
Where you don't really see it coming, next thing you know, like, oh, I have no other option but to get a chip on my head.
Extremely nihilistic, pro-death, pit of hell type.
Now we have the Vatican approving the Canaanite idol of Moloch in Rome. If you're not familiar with Moloch, it required child sacrifice and is now outside the Colosseum in Rome. And this shortly after he blessed the Pachamama statue. Pachamama is the fertility goddess in the Inca religion.
I'm afraid if we lose this one, it's going to take a civil war to save the country, and it will be saved. It's the greatest experiment in the history of mankind.
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society. It's so secret we can't talk about it. What does that mean for America?
In the end, we do not answer to bureaucrats in Washington. We answer to God in heaven. We must make America pray again.
Now he's finally supporting Trump.
Yeah, because
he doesn't have a choice now.
Yeah, well, I'll explain. So they bought out all of these pages and traffic and started directing it towards Daily Wire. So they bought out the Trump base, but they got it remonetized and reactivated with a back-end deal with Zuckerberg on the grounds that they would fight anti-Semitism and remain critical of Trump, right? So they essentially psyop Trump's base, but they bought out Trump's audience at a fraction of the cost, took advantage of the censorship to attack. And so they bought their audience. They bought it.
Holy shit! Wow.
And that's how they're big, right? So they capture the organic pro-populist audience through investment, through outside investment.
Wow!
And now they're essentially but it was under the guise of making sure that they defended the Jays and also like basically were a psyop and undermined Trump.
I believe it.
And so this sort of happened during COVID too, when Jackie came to my old network, which due to NDAs I can't say anything, and basically said if they were going to create this new newsreel, on YouTube they have news now, like authoritative sources. They didn't have that before COVID, right? So it was authoritative sources. And you had to basically agree to certain conditions about the vaccine and stuff. That's why Daily Wire came out in defense of the vaccine and encouraged people, is they weren't going to censor you, we're going to promote you if you promoted the vaccine. We didn't take it. So my old network, I'm going to defend them. They didn't take the deal.
It's not just Diddy, it's like BlackRock and Vanguard. They actually own the music industry and control the music.
Wait. The investment houses of BlackRock and Vanguard, they own the music industry?
Absolutely. From Sony Music Group, they're the most invested in the music industry. They're the most, through Viacom, they own BET, MTV, VH1. They're in control of the music industry. And they also own the overwhelming majority of stock in the private prison industry.
Literally, the certain people who own the labels own private prison. It's not about making somebody write the lyric. It's about being there as guardrails to make sure certain songs make it through and certain songs don't.
Y'all don't see nothing wrong with this. They'll say, oh man, Jesus ain't real. But niggas say demon. No, they don't even, they'll say, oh, angels ain't real.
But they accept the demons for it.
Come on, fam. They won't accept Pop Smoke, but they'll accept King Von. They won't accept Boston Richie for snitching, but they'll accept a serial killer. They'll accept the R. Kelly.
Some of them. He said he's the only president in a while who didn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world. Troops have, of course, died on his watch. He said he's put in a $15 per shot cap on insulin and Medicare. It's a $35 a month cap. He said it's a $200 cap on overall drug spending in Medicare. It's $2,000 a year. He said the border now has fewer crossings than when Trump was in office. That's generally not true. He said, or at least strongly suggested, unemployment was at 15% when he took office. It was actually 6.4. He said Trump wants to get rid of Social Security. Trump doesn't. He said billionaires pay 8.2% in taxes. It's much higher. He said Trump told Americans to inject bleach amid COVID. We know Trump made foolish comments about scientists studying disinfectant injection, but didn't frame it as advice to people. And Biden said the Border Patrol endorsed him. No, its union supported the border bill he'd supported, never endorsed him himself.
She put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana.
Out of here with that.
You can see him from right here. We see him. You know, he's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for, 2-3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
I lost my son, essentially. They call it dead naming for a reason.
Yeah,
all right, so the reason it's called dead naming is because your son is dead. So my son Xavier is dead, killed by the woke mind virus.
They don't even declare war. They just say we're going to spend $200 billion on a war with Russia, but we're going to get Ukraine to break the war. We're going to be able to sell all of our weapons to Ukraine because that's the deal. BlackRock owns Northrop Grumman, General Dynamics, Boeing, Lockheed, all of the military contractors. They're making the money on the war. They have the contract for rebuilding Ukraine. They're going to make another $500 billion on that. And they're the big donor to the Democrat and Republican Party. And this whole thing is fixed and it's rigged. And they don't even have to come to us and say we're going to have another one of these wars. They just print the money. Larry Fink is buddies with the Fed, and it's all a very, very incestuous and corrupt problem.
They did this on purpose because they are Satanists. They want to corrupt your children. LGBT, they cannot have their own children, the gay people. They need your kids. When your kid goes to school and learns these things, you're going to be very angry that not enough people stood up and said that this is unacceptable.
I actually watched it. I think this tape was actually made before I met him. So he went and snuck in to this place where former presidents go. There's a photograph of it's Ronald Reagan with Herbert Walker Bush and a couple other people all standing around. And it's these are the people that used to hang out at this place, and they would put on robes, and they would worship an owl god, and they would burn an effigy. And they're playing, and Alex snuck in and made video footage of this shit.
Very hypocritical of her to actually pretend like she's expressing concern about young people being that concerned and they're not having kids. She has before, and we've played the clip plenty of times on this show, talked about, when she's talking about the litany of measures that they're taking as a government to fight climate change, she's talked about reducing the population, saying that means we can breathe cleaner air, it's just a better world for everyone. She has literally said that is one of the measures that they are pursuing.
And of course, there's only one topic she loves more than population reduction because of climate change, and that's abortion, which is her favourite thing in the world.
So massive population reduction right there.
This is at odds with Kamala Harris's undying support of trans people, even appearing on RuPaul's Drag Race to drum up support for her campaign.
Well, if there's a thing, it's rotating.
Every society in all recorded history has thought that until, I'll be specific, August 1945, when we dropped the atom bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and all of a sudden the West is just officially secular. We're God. There is no God but us. And that's the world that we have grown up in, but that's an anomaly. No one else has ever thought that. There's never been a society that thought that. Every other society has assumed, and they've had all kinds of different explanations, and the details differ, but the core idea does not differ, and never has differed from caves until now, that we're being acted on by spiritual forces at all times. And so to someone born before or living before 1945, I think it would have been much more obvious that this is the thing that every society has written about. And in fact, that battle that unseen battle around us, that spiritual battle, has like been the basis of every society, of every religion, not just Christianity. So like it just, once you discard your very, very recent assumptions, relatively speaking, about how the world works, you're like, well, that kind of seems like the obvious explanation, right?
You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society. It's so secret we can't talk about it. What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go wild.
I'm sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the web.
Number 322?
First of all, he's not the nominee. And, look, I look forward...
Are you prepared to lose?
No, I'm not going to lose.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
Ceremony with the cremation of care?
Frankly, I don't think that's something I need to talk about.
Skull and Bones members are known to take an oath of secrecy, so their rituals and intricacies are highly guarded, despite the fame of their members. One thing we do know is the physical location of the Skull and Bones clubhouse and headquarters. The nearly windowless building, simply known as The Tomb, is housed in a large brownstone located at 64 High Street in New Haven, Connecticut. Portraits that might feature such esteemed bonesmen, like former presidents George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, and William Howard Taft, as well as the father of American football and the founder of the NCAA, Walter Camp, the man who helped create the Hubble telescope, Lyman Spitzer, Time magazine's founder Henry Luce, Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart, former Secretary of State and Senator John Kerry, the so-called richest man in private equity with a personal net worth currently valued at $15.7 billion, Stephen A. Schwartzman, political journalist and author Dana Milbank, and the youngest member of President Obama's cabinet, economist Austin Goolsbee. However, in return, it is said that the club ensures a policy and a promise of their lifelong financial stability.
Illuminati's that shadowy cabal that controls the entire world and ensures free will's an illusion. Even though they were so high-minded, they had weird rituals. See these owls? The Illuminati really loved them. And they had invented hierarchies like Novice, Minerval, and Illuminated. They were an evil organization bent on ruling the world, sure, but they were also kind of funny. The Illuminati was vague enough to be refit to any purpose, from the New World Order to religious paranoia to pop culture curio like angels and demons. It became a joke, but you might believe that's what the Illuminati wants you to think.
I actually watched it. I think this tape was actually made before I met him. So he went and snuck in to this place where like former presidents go. There's a photograph of it's Ronald Reagan with Herbert Walker Bush and a couple other people all standing around. And it's like these are the people that used to hang out at this place, and they would put on robes, and they would worship an owl god, and they would burn an effigy. And they're playing, and Alex snuck in and made video footage of this shit.
I'm afraid if we lose this one, it's going to take a civil war to save the country, and it will be saved. It's the greatest experiment in the history of mankind.
About a year ago, while speaking at the Global Finance Summit in Paris, French President Emmanuel Macron said the world needs a public financial shock to fight global warming. Around the same time, World Economic Forum founder and executive chairman Klaus Schwab also made a similar statement about revamping the global economy. In his words, "Every country from the United States to China must participate, and every industry from oil and gas to tech must be transformed. We need a great reset of capitalism," Schwab added in an article published on the non-governmental organization's website. According to popular investigative journalist Whitney Webb, what we are witnessing is the birth of a new international monetary system, a replacement for the current Bretton Woods system built solely on the blockchain to aid the complete surveillance and censorship of every aspect of our lives. Whitney's warnings are based on the words of several global elites and WEF puppets like Macron, as well as the words of Mark Carney, former governor of the Bank of England and Bank of Canada, and the UN Special Envoy for Climate Action and Finance, who said the three pillars of the New World Order are digital IDs, CBDCs, and ESG. In a recent discussion with Mark Goodwin, writer and editor-in-chief at Bitcoin Magazine, Whitney warns that all world governments are pushing this New World Order agenda, proudly sponsored by the ultra-rich and powerful, including Silicon Valley executives like Larry Fink, who wants to tokenize all existing assets and commodities, as well as the natural world. Whitney warns that from forests to rivers, mountains, and lakes, everything will soon become a commodity, owned and traded by the super rich and powerful to make them even stronger and move them closer to their goal of completely dominating the rest of us. Whitney discusses two important parts of the New World Order plans: digital IDs and natural world tokenization, warning that Schwab, Fink, and useful puppets like Macron are on the verge of achieving their grand plans, and how disastrous that would be for us all.
Putin said this in an interview. They said, what do you think of Trump? He said, I've been through 3 US presidents, and they all have amazing ideas. The ideas don't get implemented because people don't understand how strong the bureaucracy of America is. When the people with the dark suits arrive and explain to him how things are really done, his ideas will not come to fruition. Putin said himself, the president has people above him telling him what to do.
Even in the Disney film, in Pinocchio, it's unbelievable, the pub scene. And you'll remember this when you saw it as a kid. It gave you a creepy feeling in your belly.
Let's see it. Okay.
He talks about bringing the boys to Pleasure Island.
How would you blokes like to make some real money? I'm collecting stupid little boys. Stupid little boys. And I takes them to Pleasure Island. Pleasure Island? But the law. Suppose they... No, they never come back as boys.
About that case, I made sure that they changed the policy in the state of California so that every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access to the medical care that they desired and need. And I believe it was not only, I know it was historic in California, but I believe actually it may have been one of the first, if not the first in the country, where I pushed for that policy in a department.
Gay!